Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to the Palmetto State Baseball Podcast for May 6, 2024. This podcast is part of my coverage of college baseball in South Carolina. I offer schedules, scores, rankings, and other news about all 33 college baseball teams in the state of South Carolina at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I'm also active on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the handle Palmetto Base. Drop me an email at rudyjones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Send me a message on X or comment on any of the posts at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I like to hear your comments, compliments, or criticism. Listener interaction helps me to know what I need to do differently. If you see me in a game, please come say hi. I'll likely be wearing a blue cap with a Palmetto State flag type emblem on the front and the words PalmettoStateBaseball.com embroidered on the back. If you like my coverage of college baseball in the state, please tell your baseball fan friends and invite them to follow my stuff too. Instead of a sponsor, I use a little time each podcast to talk about the church where I serve the Lord. Please come worship with me at Reedy River Baptist Church on US 25 between Travelers Rest and the Furman University Golf Course in Grenville County. Worship time is about 10:30 on Sunday mornings. It lasts a little bit over an hour. We'd love to have you. I hope you would find us to be a friendly church. Before moving on, I want to wish a happy retirement to Arden Abbott, who announced today he is stepping down as Francis Marion's head coach after 24 seasons. And Abbott took the Patriots to the 2006 NCAA Division II College World Series. He's also coached at North Greenville as it transitioned from 2-year to 4-year status. It's amazing. Francis Marion has had just 52 coaches in his 52-year baseball history. Gerald Griffin started the program in 1973, and he coached there for 28 years before giving it over to Coach Abbott, who served as an assistant for Coach Griffin. Tim Wallace at Swarthmore Methodist has coached 1,869 games on the junior college level. He won 1,351 of those. The school is transitioning to 4-year status, so Wallace and the Pioneers have quite likely played their last game as a junior college. There will be new surroundings next year. Maybe NAIA, we'll have to see, beginning next year. On to the news. There are reports that changes could be coming to the scholarship limits for baseball and other NCAA sports in connection with the fallout from athlete compensation and other items. A story in Yahoo Sports indicates the day may be coming when NCAA Division I teams may have the freedom to offer up to as many scholarships for a sport as are allowed on that sport's roster. It's part of what's being considered by the NCAA to settle a lawsuit brought by a University of Arizona swimmer seeking damages for past NCAA athletes who are unable to benefit on the name, image, and likeness situations. In baseball, the roster limit is 32, but only 11.7 scholarships are allowed in Division I. Going from 11.7 scholarships to 32 would be a big additional financial burden for schools. Multiply that by the additional scholarships for other non-revenue or minor sports, and it's going to be more and more expensive to run an athletic department. That translates to higher ticket prices, etc., etc., etc. But how many schools have the resources or the will to beef up baseball scholarship money that much? You would think Clemson and South Carolina would be among the schools that are most likely to do so, but who knows? I hope they do, but that's something for folks with a lot more financial acumen than me to wonder about. But again, the more scholarships, the more it should help college baseball. We'll just have to stay tuned to see how things go. The next time you want to look ahead to get an idea of when it's going to rain, check out when a college tournament is going to be held. It's a better predictor than washing your car. All 4 college conference tournaments involving state teams last week had to deal with a lot of rain. Ditto for the National Christian College Athletic Association South Regional, which began in Columbia today. I've been doing some email exchanges with one of the coaches who is in charge of a tournament. He's indicated he's really having a tough time keeping things running smoothly as he'd like because of all the rain interruptions. As much of a headache as regular season rainouts were for me to keep up with, tournaments are even worse. You know the games are going to have to be played as soon as possible. There are usually a few end of the day games that go past midnight. A couple of times I've been sitting in a hotel somewhere after attending a tournament and listened to another game that's going on well past midnight. In fact, as I'm recording this, USC Sumter and Gaston College just started their Monday night game in the NJCAA Region 10 tournament right after 10 o'clock. Thankfully, I can just sit and watch. The proliferation of video streams of college baseball is great as an aid for helping me to keep up with games. I turned over to the Mount Olive Erskine game just in time to see Mount Olive score what turned out to be the winning run on a wild pitch in the bottom of the 8th inning on Sunday night. Then I got to see Tyler Smith of Erskine miss a game-tying home run by about a foot or so to lead off the 9th inning. Seeing that play brings so much more perspective to what's going on than just to see the designation double Smith in the box score. Erskine came oh so close to tying the game, but they didn't. Now for this week's Old Man Yells at Cloud segment. Clemson coach Eric Bakich mentioned last week he'd like to see beer sales at Doug Kingsmore Stadium to help create a more rowdy atmosphere. This comes in the same week as the University of Kentucky player said South Carolina fans threw beer on them in the dugout during their series in Columbia a week before. Did it happen? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't say that just because it's South Carolina and their fans sometimes have a reputation for being a little bit on the rowdy side. Anywhere you get people who are drinkers at a venue where emotions can be stoked, things can happen. Full disclosure, I am not a drinker. I last drank a beer in 1971. I didn't grow up in a family of drinkers, but I did drink some for about a year or so after high school in an attempt to be popular. It didn't work. I don't enjoy being around people who are drinking. If I had my druthers, I'd try to get the Volstead Act reinstated. I suspect there are others like me, maybe not many. Some minor league teams have had family-friendly sections where alcoholic drinks were not allowed. At Greenville Municipal Stadium in the 1980s with the Greenville Braves, it was Section E right behind the third base dugout. If you wanted a seat behind home plate, you had to take the risk of sitting next to someone who was drinking a beer. I also understand that the great majority of people who do enjoy beer while watching a game aren't going to cause problems. I also understand that beer sales would provide a revenue boost for colleges trying to get all the operating income it can. I hope Clemson doesn't do it, but I am convinced that that day is coming and probably sooner rather than later. You're in luck this week. You're going to get another rant at no additional cost. Saturday night's NC State-Florida State game in Tallahassee was not played because of field conditions. What I don't understand is why the teams didn't reschedule the game as part of a Sunday doubleheader. I've seen no explanation. The teams did play on Sunday, but they only played one game. The only possible reason I can think of is perhaps NC State's travel plans made it where they didn't need to play any later in the day. But if that was the case, why didn't they move the first pitch up to Sunday morning so they can have an effort to get 2 games in? I'm not in favor of playing baseball on Sunday mornings when folks go to church, or at least when I go to church. But that is already gone. The horse is already outside the barn door now. There's lots of Sunday activities going on Sunday morning. Anyway, the half game lost in the standings could cost NC State or Florida State, or both, as they chase Clemson in the Atlantic Division standings. Now I'll see myself off my lawn and get back to other things. Looking back to last weekend, Clemson won 2 of 3 over Georgia Tech and could have had a sweep had not Tech hit 6 consecutive home runs in the late going to rally and win the middle game of the series. Blake Wright had 3 homers and 10 RBIs in Friday's twin bill, which helped lead him to be the ACC Player of the Week for the past week. Columbia, Missouri has been a house of horrors for the South Carolina baseball program. The Gamecocks were 5-10 there and hadn't won a series there since 2013. Carolina needed a late explosion over the final 3 innings of Sunday's finale to win the series 2-1. An over-the-wall catch by Gamecock center fielder Blake Jackson robbed the Tigers of a potential grand slam in the second inning of Sunday's game that could have put the game out of reach early. Instead, the Gamecocks scored 8 runs in their final 3 at-bats. Cole Messina was 7 for 11 with a couple of home runs in the series, and he also earned SEC Player of the Week. All 3 USC starters struggled, which is not a good sign for the future. Ty Good, however, led a great effort out of the bullpen on the Friday and Sunday dates. Ty pitched 4 shutout innings on Friday, and he has just been lights out in the SEC. His ERA is 2.45, and he struck out like 39 in 29 innings in 8 SEC appearances. College of Charleston only got to play 2 of 3 at Towson, but won both and has taken 13 of his last 14 games. Has won 4 in a row right now. Avery Neves reached base all 11 times he went to the plate. In addition to 2 walks and being hit by a pitch, he had 3 doubles, 2 triples, and 3 homers to go 8 for 8, all extra base hits. Pretty neat. Oddly enough, he was named CAA Player of the Week. Coastal Carolina was swept in 3 games at Southern Miss, and During the 8-game losing streak they're on right now, they've gone from a potential NCAA regional host to needing to chop a lot of cutting to get back into the at-large conversation. Hopefully, Coach Gilmore can go out on his last season on a positive note with some good things happening. Presbyterian swept Charleston Southern last weekend to stay close in the Big South title chase. High Point hit 16 home runs, 9 in the first game, to take 2 of 3 at USC Upstate. Kobe Croft had a streak of homers in 5 straight games ended in that series. Peyton Carr of High Point homered 3 times in the first game and once in each of the final 2 games to have 5 of the Panthers' 16 home runs for the series. The Citadel has had a penchant of late of being victimized by late rallies from opponents. It continued in losing all 3 games to UNCG. The Bulldogs are 3-25 after a 14-3 start to go to 17-28 overall, and they're 1-17 in the Southern Conference and assured of finishing in 8th place. Regular season champ North Greenville lost 2 of 3 in the Conference of Carolinas tournament, but it's got a resume worthy of being an at-large choice to the Division II tournament when those bids were announced later this month. Erskine did have a nice run in the Conference of Carolinas tournament, including a win over North Greenville before the Flying Fleet were eliminated. Peach Belt Conference regular season champ Lander fell in the tournament at home, and now they've got to sweat out a possible at-large invitation. Coker also went 2-out in its portion of the South Atlantic Conference tournament in Hartsville. Newberry was the team to get to the finals, but they got beat by Wingate twice on Sunday, and they were eliminated. By the way, Donovan Ford of Newberry had a 31-game hitting streak snapped over in Hartsville on Saturday, but he's had a great year. Luke Taylor of USC Sumter enters Saturday's action in the Region 10 tournament in Lexington with 6 hits and 33 at-bats for the season. In 2 Fire Ants wins on Saturday, he went 7 for 10. Yes, 1 more hit than he'd had all season, including hitting a 3-run homer in the 11th inning of a win over USC Lancaster. I'm just hitting the highlights of series here, but all the scores and links to any boxes I can find are always available at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Before announcing my weekly awards, let's check out where state teams are in their respective standings. Clemson has a 36-10 overall record, and they're 17-7 in the ACC. Tigers are 2.5 games up on Florida State in the Atlantic Division. NC State is another game back. Louisville is 4 games back, and Wake Forest is 5 games behind the Tigers with 6 games in the conference remaining. The Tigers and North Carolina are tied in the race for the top overall seed for the ACC tournament, but based on research I've seen online, the Tar Heels currently have the edge over Clemson in the tiebreaker. South Carolina is 32-15 overall, 13-11 in the SEC East. That's good for a third-place tie with Georgia. Kentucky leads Tennessee by a game, with UGA and Carolina another 4 games back of the Vols with 6 games left. They trail Kentucky by 5. It would be tough for either one of them to catch the Wildcats. Unless there's some kind of bizarre multi-team tiebreaker I'm not aware of, the Gamecocks likely have punched their ticket for Hoover and to the SEC tournament. The worst Carolina can do is tie Missouri for the final spot, and the Gamecocks would have the head-to-head tiebreaker if that were to happen. If it were a 3-way tie, I'm not sure what would go on. But one more USC win or a Missouri loss or cancellation would formally put the Gamecocks in. Coastal Carolina, whose 8-game losing streak is its longest since 2014, has dropped 7 games behind first-place Louisiana and into a 3-way tie for 8th in the Sun Belt Conference. The Chanticleers are 11-13, and they have an overall record, like I said, of 27-20. A strong finish could help the Chants climb a couple of spots, but continued struggles could result in them in missing the conference tournament. Only the top 10 teams go. Presbyterian is 25-22 overall and 15-6 in the Big South Conference. They're on a 4-game winning streak. While the Blue Hose are up on High Point by a half game based on games played, they trail the Panthers by percentage points. USC Upstate is in 3rd place at 14-7 in the league, 39-18 overall, and Charleston Southern is in 4th at 99, 18-26. Winthrop is 5-12 in the conference, and they're tied with Radford for 8th place. The Eagles are 16-25-1 overall. Walford at 30-15 overall is in 4th place in the Southern Conference with an 8-6 record. The Terriers trail first place Sanford by 3.5 games with 6 games remaining. UNCG is 3 games ahead of the Terriers, and East Tennessee State is 2 games up. As I mentioned before, the Citadels won at 17 and the SoCon, they're going to finish 8th. Having the finale of the series with Towson washed out has dropped College of Charleston a half game behind first place UNCW in the Coastal Athletic Association standings. Coach Chad Holbrook's team is 16-4 in the CAA and 33-11 overall, won 13 of the last 14 games. UNCW is 17-4. Northeastern trails College of Charleston by 2.5 games in the conference. The Huskies are in 3rd place. I named Presbyterian as my Palmetto State Baseball Team of the Week for April the 29th through the 5th of May. Their sweep of Charleston Southern marked their 6th Big South Conference Series win in 7 weekends this season. Clemson and South Carolina remain the top 2 in the Palmetto State Baseball Team rankings for NCAA Division I schools. College of Charleston stayed 3rd. Wofford moved ahead of Coastal Carolina in the 4th in the Shants. North Greenville, Lander, Erskine, Coker, and Newberry topped my NCAA Division II rankings. Columbia International stayed number 1 among NAIA and National Christian College Athletic Association affiliated schools, as all 4 of those teams were idle last week. Florence Darlington Tech and Spartanburg Methodist remained 1-2 among junior colleges, and I've moved USC Sumter past USC Lancaster into 3rd on the basis of that head-to-head tournament win for the Fire Ants. Nationally, Clemson is ranked number 2 and South Carolina is ranked number 13 by D1Baseball.com. That's the poll I use when I make reference to rankings. Tennessee moved to number 1 in all the major polls. I don't mention every team's results and schedule in a weekly look back or look ahead here at the podcast, but complete schedules and results are always available in the calendar at the bottom of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. The Region 10 tournament and the NCCAA South Regional continue into midweek. Florence Darlington Tech beat Gaston College Monday night. Gaston College is top ranked in the nation, by the way. Florence Darlington Tech's number 6. And the Stingers are 1 win on Tuesday away from going to the East District Tournament for a shot at the NJCAA College World Series. Gaston College and Sumter are playing for the right to play the Stingers on Tuesday. Bob Jones stunned a top seed Fort Lauderdale in the opener of the NCCAA South Regional at Columbia International University. After about a 5-hour rain delay in mid-game, the Bruins scored 2 runs in the top of the 7th on a Camden Lance single. They went ahead 7-6 and won the game to hold on. They've now got 12 wins this season, which is a school record for the 4-year-old program, and their 4-game winning streak is also a school record. You take tiny steps as you grow. Most teams are staying close to home on midweek. On Tuesday, Clemson meets Charlotte at Truist Field in Uptown Charlotte. If you haven't seen a game there, I encourage you to go. It's a breathtaking backdrop for a baseball game. USC travels up I-77 to face Winthrop. The Citadel crosses the Ravenel Bridge to play College of Charleston at Patriots Point. Wofford visits the Presbyterian team intent on avenging a beatdown. The Terriers scored, 24 runs earlier this season against the Blue Hose. And Charleston Southern entertains a UNCG team that's on a 9-game winning streak. The Spartans got to spend a little time sightseeing on Monday between the end of the Citadel series on Sunday and the Charleston Southern game on Tuesday. This is the next to last week of conference play for NCAA Division I teams. Looking ahead to this weekend, South Carolina gets an early start on the weekend, playing a Thursday-Saturday home series with Georgia. Carolina and the Bulldogs, as I mentioned, share 3rd place in the SEC East, and they're also going head-to-head in the efforts to possibly host an NCAA regional. The Bulldogs are led by Charlie Condon, who has homered in his last 7 games. Yes, that's 7 straight games with a home run, and he has 33 homers this season. Clemson has a weekend series at Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons were number 1 in the nation for the first few weeks of the season, but now they're in 5th place in the ACC Atlantic Division, trying to catch up to the Tigers. It won't be easy. They're 5 games back with 6 games left. College of Charleston is at home against Northeastern, which is 2.5 games behind the Cougars and in 3rd place in the CAA. Coastal Carolina is at home against Georgia State, which is tied with the Chanticleers and South Alabama for 8th place in the Sun Belt. USC Upstate has a big South Conference series at Longwood, which is tied for 6th place with at a 7-11 record. The Spartans need to not stumble on the road in this one if they want to keep their championship hopes alive. Charleston Southern plays host to Radford, which is tied for 7th place with Winthrop. And Winthrop is at first place High Point. I think Winthrop and Radford actually tied for 8th. I apologize. Wofford tries to climb past East Tennessee State in the Southern Conference standings with a home series against the Buccaneers. The Terriers are 2 games back. The Citadel is at Presbyterian in a non-conference series. Complete schedules and conference and region tournaments are always available at PalmettoStateBaseball.com as soon as I can find them. I put out a new podcast every Monday during the season. If you enjoy my podcast and my other coverage of college baseball in South Carolina at PalmettoStateBaseball.com, please tell your baseball fan friends about it. Email comments, compliments, criticisms, or just general crabbiness to Rudy Jones at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I want your input to help my coverage of the best level of the greatest sport God ever allowed to be invented to be the best it can be. As a reminder, I'd love for you to come worship with me at Reeder River Baptist Church. That's on 871 North 25 Bypass between Travelers Rest and the Furman University Golf Course in the Greenville area. If you need to know where the Furman area is, Greenville area is, we're near there. Furman University used to have a college baseball team. Oh well. Worship time is at 10:30 on Sunday mornings. I hope you'll find out that we're a friendly church and will want to worship with us regularly. Thanks again for listening to the May 6, 2024 episode of the Palmetto State Baseball Podcast. This is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com saying it's a beautiful day for baseball. Let's play 2.